Welcome back to the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. We are in now the TMNT week here at the podcast, where we're going to talk the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and so much more this week right here on capesandtights.com. First up, we have Steve Lavigne, legendary comic book creator, artist, letterer, colorer, inker, penciler for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Steve was the first hire to come on board outside of Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, the co-creators of the Turtles back in the mid-1980s. Steve has been working on the Turtles in various roles and various things over the years. He was kind enough to take time out of his busy schedule to come on the podcast here to chat the Turtles and so much more right here on TMNT Week on the Capes and Tights podcast. So before we get started, subscribe, rate, review, all those things on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all your major podcasting platforms, as well as follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all those new social media things like Blue Sky and Threads and all that stuff. So follow us out there. But this is Steve Lavigne, legendary TMNT creator, letterer, artist, whatever you want to call him, here on the podcast. Enjoy, everyone. Welcome to the podcast, Steve. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well, Justin. Doing very well.
Thank you very much for taking some time, like I mentioned before we started recording, to talk about this. But it's TMNT. We're talking some Turtles. I feel like you talk a lot of Turtles over the past 30, 40 years.
Yeah, it's actually approaching 40.
Yeah.
40, yeah. Yeah, but you know what? Because it feels like you're talking about family.
Yeah.
It's been that long, and then it feels like that. So it's nice.
That's good. That's awesome. It's one of those things that I've talked to other people about Turtles. Ben Bishop. I talked to Matthias Santaluco about it and so on and so forth. And they have obviously other projects, but it's like you're pretty much synonymously known with Turtles. Like it's like Steve Lavigne is a Turtles dude. Like you had other stuff that you've done, but like let's be honest, your names go hand in hand with Turtles.
I went as far as to go with the whole hairline and everything just so I could look more like him. Yeah, that's the funny thing in doing cons over the years, and it does seem funny when you sit next to somebody who, I won't call them printmakers, but haven't really worked professionally, but they draw everything on the planet, and people come up to your table and they go like, oh, all you draw is turtles. It kind of feels like a little slap in the face. I'm like, I can draw all those characters. This is what I do, So.
Exactly. And you met Kevin Eastman, co-creator with Peter Laird in high school. Is that correct?
Yeah. Kevin and I went to high school together. Yeah, we spent a lot of time in the art room and getting in trouble after school and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Right
here in Maine, right?
Yes, here in beautiful Maine. Maine. Yeah, Westbrook. That is the motherland now for us.
Yeah.
Or originally for me.
Yeah. And man, think about it now too. I mean, like I mentioned Ben earlier, Ben's creating Turtles right out of Westbrook, Maine now too.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very funny. First time I went up to visit Ben in his studio, it's actually my dad worked for Sebago Mock making shoes. That was a warehouse for them. So as a kid, I used to be in that building all the time going to get stuff with him. And it kind of was weird going in there the first time to visit Ben, but now Joe Schmalke and Ben and everybody's kind of, it makes me feel like I want to go up to Westbrook. It's going to be too far of a commute for me.
Sometimes I feel like I say like Ben's studio is bigger than my house. And
Ben's
I don't know if it needs to be.
I give him shit.
Yeah, you're good.
Give him crap all the time because it's literally one person, and his new studio is even bigger than his last studio. And we had 8 guys at Mirage in our old factory space, and we had probably now half of the space that Ben has for only Ben.
Yep.
So we'll just leave it at that.
That's fine. He's got to have room to skate around on a skateboard, and you know what? I'll tell you what.
We had a basketball hoop. We had a skateboard.
Oh, really?
We had the Turtle arcade machine. So there's no excuses. Ben's he just has a bigger presence.
Hey, those Bish boxes take up a lot of space. Hey, okay.
he does have a cult. So we never had a cult.
Well, a cult following per se over the years, but like
right, but so, not a group of 40-year-old men that would kill for us. So that's a different animal.
That's amazing. I did see that. Did you see the trailer for the new Turtles documentary? that's coming
I
out?
actually put it up yesterday. Isaac,
Wait.
Isaac asked me to throw it to a few people. I threw it to the Cool Kids Club and as many people, and told them, please share. So
that's pretty cool. I was
yeah,
just saying, like, I was like surprised watching that little trailer, and all of a sudden I know where Ben's little face popped up. I was like, wait, hold on a second. He's gotten to the point where now he's in documentaries.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that they went. Well, it was funny because when I shot that during COVID.
Yeah.
So they were sending the camera around, and it was kind of like I'm in my studio, but Ben's, get this nice side shot, I'm like, man, he knows what he's doing. I'm like tight close up on me. I look like I'm eating the camera, and it's just funny. But no, I'm very excited about that. Because the first one was such a, I mean, you've seen it, I'm assuming.
Yes, I've seen. Yes, I have. Yeah.
And there's quite a few shots of me walking into a camera as Peach filming at different times. And it was always so strange because I always thought, why are you videotaping this for nobody? It makes no sense at all. This is not where nobody's gonna care. And then when the documentary came out, I literally had to tell Pete, I'm so happy you always had a camera going. I said, A, you get to see my hair disappear, and B, it's a nice little, you think you remember everything, and then you see something and go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, that was really fun that time we did that. So looking forward to the new one. I know they had more footage of us. That's why Isaac reached out to me to see if he could ask some questions about some older footage and stuff like that, and I was happy to do it.
It's funny though, because like I feel like it's a lot. I hate to say easy because it's not easy to make a documentary in the first place, but it's going to be easier for people 20, 30 years from now to make documentaries about things that are happening today, because we do have so much more quick photos and images and videos and selfies and all that stuff from nowadays. So finding all that information is probably going to be fairly easy to do.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it is very true. Like I even old photos, every once in a while someone will put one up, and I'm just happy that someone's scanned it and now put it up so I have a copy of it, because it's funny to see. And again, not everybody had cameras back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember a lot of the pictures showing up as Kevin bought a camera, and not a nice camera, just wanted to take pictures. And early videos were rented VHS camera, because no one could afford one. I think it was a San Diego con that allowed the Mirage Studios or Pete to actually have a video camera and start recording stuff that nobody should ever see.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you joined the ranks and were brought on as an illustrator or as a letterer first. Is that correct?
So yeah. So Kevin was doing the lettering in all the early issues, and I know he hated it. And when we got together just after the first issue came out, he gave me a copy of the first issue, and he had moved back to the Portland area for a little bit and was working. Actually, I think so. Issue 2, he was working on Raphael because that came out before issue 3. And we were kind of hanging out again, and he just kind of said, "Hey, I was working a good job," and my parents knew Kevin. So when Kevin asked me to join, my parents thought I was a little bit of an idiot. You're going where with Eastman? One of those things.
Yeah.
And of course it turned out great. But my thought was, hey, I'm at a place where I can always get another job. This is a one chance. If it lasts a year, I'll come back to Maine and I'll work a different job. If it lasts 2 years, whatever happens. We thought 5 years would have been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So the number now is way beyond what we could even imagine. But
yes.
Yeah, so when I joined as a playmate for Kevin and as the letterer, it was fun because me and Kevin, had an apartment together. Pete was already married to his wife Janine, so it was kind of it was perfect. It was great. We had a lot of fun in the early days, and then that's where Jim ended up joining the studio when we were out in Sharon, Connecticut. It was a lot of fun. It was more fun than we'd like to admit. There was a lot of stupid fun going on. Not anything dangerous. I don't know if you remember the disc guns. They have little discs. So we would have disc gun wars in our. So mine and Kevin's apartment. After we'd be just cleaning buckets of discs up because we actually. I think Pete came up with an idea that you could add on a clip take a clip from another gun to make the stretch out the spring, and you could have twice the discs in one gun. That's how insane it got. And it was just kind of in between working and doing the, Pete and Kevin doing the office, like business stuff. The office was my bedroom. It was the back, kind of back room, because there's only one bedroom apartment. So we created a bed space for me. It was nice. It was a lot of fun. It was more fun. I don't think there was a stage of it that it wasn't fun.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that's funny how fandom for TMNT started. People were like really anxious to see it at the very beginning, and then it kind of dipped for a little bit, a number of years ago. And it's like, I think it's at an all-time high right now with all the stuff that's coming out with the new movie from Seth Rogen and obviously the Last Ronin, and what we're on issue 141 of the current ongoing series, which is pretty insane. I got some talented people working on that.
Yes.
Going on 40 years, it's a crazy thing to think about that you probably had no idea back in, the mid 80s, that this was going to go this far, this long. I can imagine.
No, like I said, I mean, I think I've heard Kevin and Pete say it, and I think I will echo it. 5 years would have been incredible.
Mm-hmm.
That's without even thinking about the toys happening or anything like that. But that's again, that's a different animal. But just doing the book even as long before the toys hit and what was happening and how popular the book was, still, crazy when you think about all that. And yeah, I mean, it's 40 next year.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be 39 for me.
Yeah.
So that's insane. 40 sounds crazy too, but I mean, and when it comes to the popularity, yeah, I mean, well, you figure it's multi-generational now. We've got the grandfather that probably read the black and white book, who raised his daughter or son on Turtles, who are now raising their kids on the newer versions of the Turtles. So I mean, I've had that come up to the table once, like where I read the book and I turned my son on, and this is his daughter, and she's a big, and I was like, whoa, mind blowing. So yeah, and again, so when you think about that, and everybody has their version of them, because they really never really, if you were a fan of the 80s, you're like, well, there was nothing in the 90s, and I didn't really know about. There's nothing till the movie. And you're like, no. There was a 90s series, there was, the 2K series, there was, so they were kind of ongoing, and everybody has their version, that was their time period. They were watching them. So it's crazy, but yeah. I mean, I'm really looking forward to the new movie.
I am too.
I am over the writing, the little scenes I've seen have done my heart way better joy than the other two movies combined. If you took any good scenes out of those and tried to make something that you go, oh, that was so much fun, done. So I'm very much so looking forward to this one. It just looks like a blast.
Well, it looks like the animation style is really cool. It's that new, like a different style of animation. Plus, guess what? The Turtles are being played by teenagers. Who would have thought?
I know. It's it is mind blowing. And again, it makes so much more sense. I hate to be, because we've always had to defend them. To a certain degree. I mean, we have our hatred. There's certain things I do not like. I really did not like the first, new gigantic turtle movie, the Shrek Hulks, as I call them.
Yes.
And in the second one was slightly better. I didn't mind the Kevin Munro's 2003. That was kind of fun. I do dig that the teenagers are voicing teenagers. That makes so much sense. I mean, that's why I think even though it wasn't teenagers, the 2012 series, I thought had a good voice cast that sounded a lot younger. Especially Greg Sykes, like being Michaelangelo. I was like, oh, that's perfect. He's got that perfect voice. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And like you said, the art style, digging it, loving the kind of painted, animated style. I'm just happy that it's not like, it reminds me a little bit of, not in style, but in the creativeness of the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
When I watch Spider-Verse, like, this is animation at its best. Right here, this is like, it's hitting on all cylinders, and I kind of dig what they did with this. Like, the characters are just so over the top and so well done. All the mutants and stuff, and of course, crazy cast
Yes.
of voice actors, you know. So yeah, I mean, I'm very excited. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's going to be a premiere because of the strike, which is hey, I'm all with the actors and writers on that thing, but yeah, you know, we were looking forward to hopefully going to a premiere. I won't open them up, but I got a gift from my friend.
Oh yeah,
Tom Bullman. I got to shoot a little video. Maybe I'll do it. Schmidt, you know what? Is there any way if I open these up in front of you, you can send me a little snippet of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because I got to share it with Tom. So, hey, Tom, it's me, Steve. I'm in the middle of a podcast, and I'm opening up my Mutant Mayhem Bull Airs to show people.
The box itself is amazing.
Tom, does the most amazing things. This is a little congratulation things on the new movie that kind of came along with it. And these are, I'm so looking forward to these. I only saw them in sketch form, so oh my god, he never disappoints. Check these out. So these they have like a little bit. They always have a cool inner soul. The inner soul is like ooze, but you can see it's got the these have Raphael and Leo on them, and of course this one will have Mikey and Donnie. They've got little details here. You get the little Nickelodeon logo and the Mutant Mayhem on the back here.
Wow.
And there's a little TMNT carved into the leather on the front here. They're just amazing. Tom does amazing work. And Tom, you know, people need to reach out to Nickelodeon and tell them Tom has the license, but he's not producing these. Unfortunately, I think Adidas took the big license away. But Bull Airs needs to have the license. They're just beautiful. They're just amazing. I mean, I won't keep it. I'm done with this. Tom, that was for you. Here you go. Bull Airs, buy them. Check them out online. Bull Airs. All right. I'm sorry about that, Justin. I didn't mean to run.
No, you're good. That's great. Here, they're stunning.
They're insane. And, you know, like sorry, I'm going to step off to the side for a second. I have to say, you know, we've become good friends with Tom. And at Granite State this year, we're going to be dropping a pair of sneakers together, based on the art I did for the Turtle Arcade 2 game where they're breaking through the brick wall and skateboards. So there'll be a set of sneakers that we'll have a pair to show, and people will be able to order them at Granite State this year. Very awesome. Excited about that.
That's September 13th to the 15th. Is that right? Yeah, somewhere around there.
I'm going to say yes to you. That sounds right.
I talked to Matthias too, and yeah, 15th to the 17th. That's what it is. 15th through the 17th of September in Manchester, New Hampshire, Granite Con, which is kind of like a Turtles convention in disguise.
It totally was last year. And it will be this year. I've actually, fingers crossed, I've been kind of talking with Ken Matroni, and he's out on the West Coast, and he is supposedly going to lock it down after San Diego. I knew he's doing San Diego, so hopefully we'll get our boy Ken out there for all of you fans that have not been able to get out that way to see Ken. He doesn't do a lot of shows, so anyone who grew up with the Adventure series knows Ken's stuff, and Ken's a god.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to that. That'd be awesome if you could have him come. But you mentioned the video game, and one of the cool things I think that, you know, in your history with the Turtles is that you had the ability not only to help on the comics side of things, but you also were doing artwork for Playmates and for the video game stuff and all that stuff too. So like your artwork expands further than just you know, the pages of the comic book and things like that. That must have been such a thrill to be able to do that and have toys with like the bar. Like, was this? I don't remember what ones you do, but I have this one right here. Is this an old one that you had? I found this in a box somewhere.
Oh, funny.
I don't know. Is this a Playmates one? I'm pretty sure it's a Playmates one.
It looks like a Playmates one. Yeah.
Funny thing about this story about this quick one is I wanted this for my toy thing here, but knowing my 2-year-old son would come up and grab it and take it, so there was 2 of them. So I bought him one so that he would have his own version of it. And I had to find the one that was better for him, that was like less sticky. I don't know why they were sticky, but they're old.
Yeah, they're old. Sometimes that happens. Yes,
yeah. But you had the ability to do other things other than the comic stuff. Like you were able to draw turtles for the broad range of Turtles things that came out.
Yeah, it's so funny because I letter. Then I did the painted graphic novels because Kevin and Pete, they first comic collected those. So when as that progressed and when they became the pizza eating cowabunga turtles, as I like to call them, it was very exciting because my art style was never really. I never wanted to be a comic book guy. I love to draw, but more of a Disney, Warner Brothers, Mad magazine guy. If my world I would have blew my mind to work for Mad. That would have been my thing. But again, being thrust into the comic world, I got a good lesson from Kevin and Pete, instantly about comics. And I knew it's not like I was oblivious to them. I just really wasn't a comic guy. So again, working on the graphic novel, I worked on the first one with Kevin. When the second one came about, they didn't like the other 2 colorists that worked on it. So in assisting Kevin, I had a pretty good grasp of color, which was fine. They asked me to do the second one on my own. Dumb enough not to say no. I did, oh yeah, I can do it, and that continued through all of those. And then I was doing covers occasionally on the regular series, but then when Tales came along, I was painting all the covers and lettering Tales and the regular book and all that. Again, just dumb enough to say yes to everything. And when they became the cartoon was coming along, Kevin and Pete reached out to me. So I did like the first couple of pieces for like a bot bag, and a couple other things myself. And I hated my inking. So luckily Ryan Brown is an amazing inker, and we teamed up and we started doing as much as we could do in-house. We would offer them, each product, hey, you don't have to go through the approval process. It will save you time. And this is pre-computers. So saving time is an amazing thing.
Yes.
And of course, it would be pre-approved because we're drawing it in-house. So it would be exactly what they want by the people who draw it all the time. So that was a lot of fun. And again, it opened me up to drawing a lot more, which was great, and designing some toys. But unfortunately, I think every time I look like, oh, I was really designing toys, and then all of a sudden Ryan's designing all the toys and everybody else is. And I'm like, why wasn't I doing that? I was there. Well, then I remembered he had 3 kids. I was the only one. I was having me and Jim Lawson were having kids at that time. So all the other guys were not having kids, and then their kids were toys. They were hanging on peg hooks. So yeah, it was a lot, and again, a lot of fun. And we just, again, there is no version of I say we had a lot of fun, and I feel like I'm throwing that at you, puking it out every 5 seconds, but it was. It was, it was just, you couldn't, the guys owned the company, so we weren't dealing with, like a corporation stopping us every time we took a step in the wrong direction. They let us go in the wrong direction a little ways and then pull us back and go, okay, everything up to this point was really cool. We like what you did there, and then go this way. That was it. Yeah. So, so again, that's why, we just had a really different story than I think a lot of artists and creators out there, unless, they had the same experience that Kevin and Pete did, but, or we did there. It was wonderful.
It sounds like it too. And it's like one of those things that's like, I don't know. I feel like when someone talks about like franchises, there's like, your Marvel, your DCs and all that stuff. Then you have like Star Wars, and then there's like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is like its own thing. And it's crazy how that has become that way. Like when you look at certain websites that cover different pop culture things, it's like if you drop down menu, it's literally like, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Walking Dead, and then it's like TMNT. And it's just crazy that it's grown to that level in this point. And think the fact that there's Michael Bay. I mean, how much, I know that we've talked about it a second ago, but like those movies weren't our favorite, but they also had a budget that was astronomical, which is crazy to think about compared to like what the 90s movies were like. And to think that someone in a studio somewhere was willing to say, we're going to put this much money towards a movie based on these 4 teenage turtles is just
or
absolutely
boys that live in the sewer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's insane that someone put that much money towards it. The fact that this self-published first comic book back in the 80s, it was turned into a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar franchise is absolutely insane. And the fact that you've been able to do along the lines and say over the years, you've been obviously involved, not, like you haven't been like, you're not like drawing the comic book every day or lettering the comic book every day. But you've been involved. You've done things since the since
I mean, when there was stuff to do, I was always down to do it. I mean, when I moved back to Maine from Mass, where it was home base when our kids were younger, I kind of, for a while I was going back and forth because we had a toy design group aside from, the Turtles, that we had a couple of properties that were kind of out and about that actually the mouse killed when he took over ABC. But anyway, so I was doing that, but getting back to what you were saying about the Turtles being like the only thing, it's very true. When you think about it, the mouse owns Star Wars and Marvel. The brothers Warner owns the DC, and realistically, The Walking Dead is a great thing, but it's not viable for all across everything. Like the Turtles is. It's viable from 70 down to 2. Where. Much like Hellboy, beautiful, great property and a standalone property, but it only has a certain age group that it can deal with. So Paramount they were genius when they got the Turtles, because realistically there is nothing out there. And there's a lot of untapped characters that were in the Turtle universe that I think that could be standalone characters if they're done right,
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
so,
go ahead.
I was going to say, so, I know that they do have some things in the works. We haven't had any definitive things, but like, doing what Warner Brothers is doing on Max, with the Penguin having his own series in it, so and I've heard that that's kind of what they're going to do with some villains from the Turtle world. So
which makes sense because I mean one of the things we've talked about, like recently I talked to someone about like the new Indiana Jones movie, how like people are kind of lukewarm on it, but like, did someone ask the question, are they going to reboot it? Are they going to do more? Are they going to continue it? Is it Harrison Ford going to be there and not be there? And one of the complaints was it seems like, Disney wouldn't have spent that much money on Lucasfilm just to let this property just to go bye-bye. Like at some point they're going to do something else with this. You have to think about that. However, it's not going to be as quote unquote easy as like Star Wars was, because Star Wars was more than just like Han Solo or Luke Skywalker. There's so much more to it that you can go in so many different directions, which they've done with Andor and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka coming out and so on and so forth.
Mandalorian, making it small again. They made it small.
Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is that whole thing. Like there's small characters that are here and there, but like Indiana Jones, the 5 movies wouldn't be the 5 movies without that character. But you're right. Turtles would be great. A Shredder one, those kind of
the Rise of the Foot Clan could be a whole series, before they even get to, America, we could get to the point where, they split, the foot splits, that type of stuff where, good and bad, where we find out what happened. I mean, there's a ton of it. I mean, there's a lot of backstories there that, how that character get to be, how did, Baxter Stockman has a wealth of storytelling there, from the Mirage universe. If you combine the Mirage to, the other universe, you've got them making the Mausers and then mutating into a fly, type of a thing. So there's a lot of stuff there that could very easily be turned into miniseries and then, like be brought into a bigger, universe. So hopefully that's the plan. We don't have a Jim Gunn yet. Hopefully we'll get ourselves one of them. Like I have anything to do with ourselves, one of them. But I always think like the Turtles. I want them to get the best stuff, so it's always, and like I said, my wife Denise and I, she always jokes like, it does feel like family to us. We've been attached to it for such a long time. So we do care, we do care about what happens to them and stuff like that. So it's always interesting, and again, it's our place to, defend everything, which I'm fine with. I've always been fine with that because Kevin and Pete have always let everybody play in their toy box, and play with whatever figures and characters they want to make and to do whatever, make them look however they wanted to back in the day with the books. So all the different changes have been kind of less painful to us than it has been to fans, so.
Do you think in the comic book side of things, having someone like Kevin still be heavily involved in it is helped with the direction that's been going even more lately?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, not taking anything from Tom Waltz.
No,
everybody, the rest of the creative crew. Of course, you've got Kevin. He's the father.
Mhm.
He's the second father to them. You know, there's two dads. My two dads. No.
Yes.
The Turtles' two dads.
Yeah.
You know, or as I like to call him, the one person Eastman Laird. You know, because that's what got on those pages. But yeah, no, I think it's instrumental. You know, I wish. I mean, you know, Pete fostered them for such a long time on his own. You know, when Kevin kind of sold his part and did his, so I get Pete kind of like feeling like, okay, I think he's had a few years off, and I think occasionally he gets it into his blood a little more too. He's a little older, so I think it takes a little more, you know, kick to get going. But he just did a cover with Kevin, and I ended up coloring it for the Usagi crossover, and that was just so weird. All of a sudden, I got a message from Kevin, "Hey, can you color this?" I'm like, "What the?" Scratching my head, "What's going on? What?" And he goes, "Yeah, I penciled it and Pete inked it. Can you color it?" And I'm like, "Yep, done." Considered it done. You know, awesome. It was, you know, I'm always happy to be pulled in. You know, it was fun you know, like I did a Last Ronin cover for issue 5 with Kevin, and I have never inked him. And he's inked stuff for me before, because I always hated my inking. I've gotten better, you know. So, and I'm always better on somebody else. You know, like I think I take my time a little more. I think I feel like I'm reworking the same drawing when I'm inking it after I penciled it, you know, because I've always, in the past, I'd always handed it off to Ryan. So it was fun. It was so much fun to ink Kevin. And again, I actually, you know, got out my airbrush and, you know, and did it, colored it in the physical world, which blows. I always love talking to Ben about that stuff because it blows his mind. He's like, you just went and colored on the original? I'm like, well, that's what we did originally before the computers came along, you know. So it's not odd to me, you know. It's more fun to me to pull that stuff out. Of course I have to worry if I make a mistake. I actually had somebody had me paint a Santa Luco cover for them. Somebody had purchased one, and I was like,
oh wow,
you know, and I was only nervous because it was whiteout on it, and I'm like, well, I can't use my regular techniques. I'm gonna have to fix it, you know, fix the whiteout spots. But again, I was telling Ben that, and Ben's like, you just colored a Santa Luca. And I'm like, well, yeah, the guy asked me to do it. He owns it, you know. And then I actually sent it to Santa Luca, and he loved it, so it was fine.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. Think about it. To be, like I said, when I talked to some VGS, there was one of these things about like, you know, you're. And when I talked to some people about during Star Wars Week, we did in May, it was like this, you're now part of this community, not only a wider range of community of fans, but a community of these people. Like the fact that Santa Luco got you to color, you know what I mean? Like the fact that your name is now attached to a piece that he did, I'm sure it was more like an honor to him than it was a disrespect to his artwork.
I get it. You know, like the younger guys, I know like Tim Laddie, who was doing the Saturday morning book. We did a couple things together, and I painted a piece for him that was a variant cover for a shop down in Louisiana where he lives. And I remember talking to him and the shop owner, and they were like looking at the cover and staring at it, like, look at what he did here. Look at how he did this. And I'm like, it's a flat color with a little bit of acrylic paint on top of it. It's not magic. You know, but to them, because he did a lot of his stuff digitally, they forget how you know, things interact with the paper and other mediums interact with each other, that you get weird things. So it's unlike a computer. You have to go, oh, I got to get a filter on that, and I've got to do this, and I've got to get the right brush to make that effect. You know, I just grab it and work. You know, so I always find that a very that's fun to me. You know, like and again, like to do that with Kevin for issue 5, and I have the original, so that always makes a nice thing for my wall too. But you know, it was just a blast. And again, I would love to, you know, like I'm so happy we got the team together to do that Usagi cover, but I'd like to do a lot more. You know, it'd be a lot more fun. Love to see you know, Kevin and Pete do some more covers, and I'd love to get in the physical world and, you know, paint them like the old days. That one I had to do digitally, and it was kind of hard. You know, like, there's a lot of black on here. There's not much I can do with color. So I just kind of pulled the colors back a little bit on that one, but it would have been fun to, you know, actually paint a nice original and have fun like the old days.
And it's actually kind of cool too. It was on one of the crossovers too, which actually just throws a little different thing, little spice to it, and not just a simple like, you know, TMNT 140 variant or something like that. It's pretty cool.
No, it's very cool. And again, we love Stan. Stan's, of course they published Stan for a short time at Mirage, and Stan's such a incredible artist and a wonderful person. So it's always nice to have a nice Usagi crossover.
That's a crossover that I liked a lot. But I also, did you see the new crossover with Stranger Things? It just came out like a week ago.
No, but it's so bizarre because the toys came out.
Yes.
From Playmates, which I was like, what? Why? Huh? Why? Kind of a thing. Because I didn't know that, of course, I think the book may have been in the works. I don't even know if that was true. I think
I have no idea.
Licenses,
yeah,
and decided to combine them, like they did with the Cobra Kai license or whatever. Because I saw the figures and I was like, I couldn't figure out literally why
they did it.
Yeah. So no, I haven't seen it. Didn't even know 100% it was coming. So
I'm not a huge fan. Usually not a huge fan of those kind of crossover things that are not like, I don't know. I just feel like everything has their own universe and should stay in their own universe in a sense. But when I saw that one on the shelf, I was talking to Paul Eaton, who owns Galactic Comics in Bangor, Maine. I was looking at the comic book on the shelf and I was like, I'm weirdly interested in wanting to read this. I can't put a finger on it, why I want to read this issue. But then maybe it's because like Stranger Things is based in the 80s, right? I mean, like the actual show, and the Turtles came around in the 80s. And so the illustrations in the comic book is the early Turtles. They look like the Turtles from the 80s. They all have red bandanas and face masks on. So they're not the different colored ones, which came along with later on with the TV show. So it's like one of those things that like it actually takes you, it's a period piece that it's actually the people from Stranger Things traveling from Hawkins to New York City and stumbling upon the Turtles in the sewer. And it's one of those things where I'm like looking at it, I'm like, well, this is actually, it's not even just like we're putting them together. It's like what you guys worked on in the 80s, what the Turtles looked like in a sense was very similar. And I was like, okay, now I get it. I don't know if I'll ever read past issue 1 just because I don't care about Stranger Things that much. But it was one of those things. It made sense. It was like an 80s comic book. It was really cool in that sense.
Yeah. That does make a little more sense because the one that crossover that I, and that happened years ago, but the X-Files made kind of sense. But I mean, initially I was like, well, that's weird. But then I was like, no, that does make sense. Like they could be investigating mutated creatures in the sewer. So I was like, okay, yeah, that one made sense. But yeah, that was a head scratcher. That's a little bit of a head scratcher. But I see the valid point of them, the time period and them going. I don't understand them traveling to New York, but I'm sure there's a reason.
It was a school trip, maybe.
Okay,
that's what it was.
Spider-Man way to get him into another location.
Which is also kind of funny because they had to somehow get 11 there because 11's not part of the school, so they went on a school trip, and so like she just happens to take her own bus. She's like, "Oh, I figured out how to take a bus. Have you ever taken one of those Greyhound things?" And then they just like scoot past it, and they're like, "Okay, now the group's back together in New York City."
We have to acknowledge that you knew right where to get, because New York is a really tiny, quaint little city that's easy to find people in. So yeah, it's like
but you know what? That's what's great about comic books is the fact that you can just go, here this person is, and you have to believe it to get the story.
If you can dismiss it, you can continue with the story. Yes. Yeah.
But just like a couple of things I wanted to talk about quickly before we finish up here is that so the Turtles have progressed over the years. Like I mentioned, we're actually in the longest running ongoing series for the Turtles ever, which has been like this for a little while right now, because I mean, I don't remember what it was before, but we're at 141 this past week. And so it's far surpassed the last longest run, and it's going strong. Sophie Campbell's killing it. Gavin Smith is now the illustrator on the inside for that as well, who's killing it as well. But you also got The Last Ronin, and The Last Ronin has brought this whole other group of people, I think, into it. I think when I got deep diving back into it was when The Last Ronin was first announced, was like, oh, I cannot wait for this new gritty, bringing it back to the old school kind of Turtles. And then they had this Lost Years that's going on now. And then Kevin and I talked, I don't know, back in May about that they're doing Last Ronin Volume 2 at some point afterwards. So The Last Ronin's here to stay. What's your take on this whole Last Ronin stuff going on in the world?
I totally dug the original series. It blew my mind because I lived with Kevin, and we spent most days with Pete, and to know that they had kind of had the thread of this story in like 87. I'm like, wait, no, we were living together. I don't remember this. ever being talked about. But it blew my mind when I think I talked to Ben a little bit, because he reached out to me about it, and then we were talking, and he was kind of telling me things. So I instantly reached out to Kevin, and just to talk a little bit, and it blew my mind. And what blew my mind is they even like to pick the turtle. I was like, so how'd you, he goes, who do you think the last Ronin is? And I'm like, well, what most people my go-to would be is either Ralph, but probably not, because he's too big of a hothead. He's going to die doing something dumb.
Mm-hmm.
So probably Leo, and he's like, nope. I'm like, Michaelangelo? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, huh? And then he told me, and it was genius when he told me. He goes, well, when me and Pete were originally figuring out who would be the last Ronin, we went first is last.
Mm-hmm.
So the first turtle they drew was Michaelangelo. He's the last one standing. And I was like, I got chills. I'm like, that gave me chills, Kevin. That's crazy, insane that you thought of it way back then.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be who it was and how it was going to happen. And it wasn't all together. Because Pete, I talked to Pete about it, and he's like, yeah, it wasn't a full story. There was some links and some clues and some ideas, but it was never fleshed out completely. And, of course, Kevin and Tom fleshed it out and, filled in the blanks and added new aspects to it and stuff like that. So, but
I think Kevin in the past has said that he based Michelangelo off of you. Is this true information?
Only the badass part of it, that I'll be the last Ronin.
Yeah, so you must feel honored. You're the last one standing.
It's not that I'm funny. It's that I'm badass. Okay, it's gonna last man standing guy.
Yeah.
No,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. Like, I heard that from fans at cons, that he said, "Oh, I read in an article that Michelangelo's based on you." And like, oh, Kevin probably was talking about something else, and that kind of got convoluted together. So I kind of dismissed it until Turtle Power. And when he flat out says, I'm like, well, I can no longer deny
that you said that,
yeah. And again, I think it's just that in the early days we were living together. I said a lot of stupid crap when we were living together, and I think a lot of that, and not just me, but all of us as time progressed, I think a lot of us all leaked into the Turtles. If we were working on them ourselves, or if we were part of the team, it just happened naturally.
It makes sense. It makes sense that way you do that. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. But I think it's funny. So I talked to Ryan Brown, another Ryan Brown, and Charles Soule about curse words and 8 Billion Genies recently. And on 8 Billion Genies, they did a variant cover with Andrew Devoff, which is the 1 in 10 variant. He was Wishmaster, or the Jin on Wishmaster.
Yep.
And they wanted, because the whole book's about genies, and they wanted to do a realistic, the whole goal was, of the 8 issues they're doing, maybe we could put a real life, quote unquote, genie on the cover of the 1 in 10 variant. But then after they got the Andrew Devoff one, they realized that like the other genies are like Will Smith and the people that are owned by Disney. So they could like, so like we can't do much. I'm like, there's not much else. So Andrew Devoff signed off on it, and I laughed as afterwards. And then the connection with Last Ronin #1 would have been funny if there was just a picture of you on one of the variant covers, like your face on the front of it. It would have been awesome.
I did a solo variant. I did it, but not me on it. But I got to do a solo variant, which was the weirdest thing ever for me, to pencil, ink, and draw and color something. But it was fun. I almost wish I had somebody else in it, but it was short notice. But yeah, that would have been funny. I don't know if everybody would have got it.
Like a 1 in 100 variant or something like that. Right, so someone had to buy a bunch of books to get this.
Jetpack Comics here, because they're about 20 minutes away. I should have talked to Ralph. Hey, Ralph, how about me with a bandana on? Huh? I'll have all the weapons. And
it wouldn't even take any work. You take a photo on your phone and put it on the cover. You don't have to do anything extra with it. Lay over the trade dress on it.
And have a sai, a nunchuck, this thing and a sword. That'd be all good. A staff and a sword. That'd be all good.
Because it would have been funny for those people who know the idea that you were, based off of it. They've been, who is the last Ronin? This variant cover might have given it away by saying,
it would have had to be like an issue 5 or something cover, so that. But it would have been one of those. If you get it, you get it covers.
Why is Steve the only one that gets a photo cover? Not Kevin, not Peter. Not
he's not the handsome one. Why have they got him on a cover? It's not selling books.
Well, that's what they're saying about the Devoff one, and you had to know, and it was like one of those things that like they're not sure it sold issues because it was the 1 in 10. So when people saw the 1 in 10 cover, they're like, well, I don't need to buy 10 copies to buy this stupid cover. So it definitely didn't work out. But they did say that they'd come to the Maine Comic and Toy Con. Both Ryan and Charles said they'd come if we could get Andrew Devoff there. So I texted Jay and Will and was like, if you can get Andrew Devoff there, Ryan and Charles will come because they've never met him in person, and they'll have tons of this variant covers that they could have him sign, and it'd be great. So
Ryan Brown, the one that does Murder Hobo?
No, that's Ryan G. Brown.
There are too many Ryan Browns. So there's the British Ryan Brown.
There's Ryan Brown, who is from Chicago. He does God Hates Astronauts. And he did curse words. He did curse words with Charles Soule, and he did 8 Billion Genies that just came out recently.
There's Ryan Brown from Ohio.
Yes. There's Chicago Ryan Brown, and then there's Ryan G. Brown. Is he from New England? No, where's he from?
I don't. He's from I don't know 100%, but I know I've met him up here at a thing at Ben's.
Yeah.
Because I did some covers from Murder Hobo and some interior stuff with Joe. And then there's one that I remember Kevin, I hit Kevin up. We were texting about something, this is years ago, that he penciled, Simon Bisley inked, and then it was colored by Ryan Brown. And I'm like, that's not our Ryan Brown, because I have to tell him how to turn on his computer. Yes. And it was digitally colored. So I'm like, that's not him. And he's like, no, not him. Whole different Ryan Brown. So I'm like, okay, if you're a Ryan Brown, just don't get into comics.
Well, it's the opposite side of that. I was like, if I have another child, I need to name the child Ryan Brown, even if it's a girl. Ryan's a girl's name too, Ryan Brown. So that Ryan Brown Soderberg, because that would make sense, because then you're like forced into the world of comic book illustration.
There you go, yeah.
And they're all illustrators too. It's not even like they're all like one of them is a writer, right?
No, they're all artists. Yeah,
so that's pretty funny. So that's a funny little Ryan Brown that someone they kept on saying the real Ryan Brown and things like that. I'm like, oh, there's no real. Okay, let's be honest.
Well,
they're all talented.
The real Ryan Brown, because he's the first Ryan Brown.
Yeah, you go right.
He's the oldest, so he is what is it? Ryan Brown 0.0.
Yes.
0.0. 0.0. Yes, and it's the first, and then they go from there.
The comic books version of the 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon is just like, if you know a Ryan Brown, then you're connected in the comic book industry.
I do it with Kevin Eastman.
Yeah, that works too.
Because it's pretty easy to get really far in that too, with all the connections. All of us.
Over the years.
I'm like, wait, I'm only a couple degrees away from him too.
I'm good friends with that guy because I know Kevin Eastman, and Kevin Eastman knows that guy.
Hell, I'm Michaelangelo, for Christ's sakes. That puts me closer.
Are you gonna do anything with the new Murder Hobo that Schmalke is doing with Brown, or are you just...
Joe has asked me to do some more with him. I will neither confirm nor deny. I'll do at least some more covers. I have a blast doing the covers. I wrote it. Well, it was supposed to be in one of the 6-page stories I was doing. I wrote a story and I told it to Joe, and Joe's like, "No, that's a whole book. That's an issue." I'm like, "I don't want to write a whole issue or draw a whole issue." But I'm going to preface it by I kind of told Joe, if I do it, I might just pencil, and have somebody else ink it, and then I may color it. I don't know. I'll see, because that's something that goes quick for me. And if I have a flatter, especially digitally, it's like it's just so quick. So I'll see what happens. I would like to say I'm going to continue doing covers. And I like Joe. Joe's a really good friend, so I would love to, as long as he thinks I bring some value to it, I'll do it.
This year. It will go quick unless Steve Mardo did the drawing of the
Steve Mardo. Don't need. No, I love to give Mardo a hard time, because
that's so detailed.
Well, you know the story, right? You know the 8. Yeah. So I mean, he did 8 11 by 17 pieces of paper to do a 2 11 by 17 pages worth of work. So that in turn turned it into it was probably 4 days coloring that 2-page spread, just because there was so much going on. I couldn't just make people a flat color.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're in the shadows. You know, like, no, they're not in the shadows right there, so they're not in the shadows. You know, so I literally almost lost my mind, and I blame Mardo for that. But
I still to this day think Mardo did it because that's 8 original art pieces they can sell. I think that's the reason he did it.
Well, that's all good and well, but it's still an insane reason.
I know.
It's still insane. Like I said, I really like Steve stuff.
Yeah.
He's just that was it was a killer, and he knew it. He knew what he was doing, and I just love to give him crap now. Like if I see him at a show, I turn and walk away.
Yep.
I'll say hi to the two people next to him. He'll be in between people, and I won't acknowledge him until I make him feel bad.
He was my punching bag at the Maine Comic and Toy Con for some odd reason. I just felt like he needed to be taken down a level. So I took him down.
I'm glad other people get to take down Mardo. He does have one of those faces, doesn't he?
I took him down, and the last day I was like, "Hey man, can I pay you to do a new logo or like an illustration of myself for our logo?" And he's like, "Oh really? After all that crap you gave me this weekend, you're thinking?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's gonna draw me like with like I'm gonna look so odd."
Yeah, you probably did the wrong. You probably asked him at the wrong time, to do it.
Should have asked him at the beginning of the weekend and finish it, and then give him all the shit the whole time.
And I gave you shit because I feel like we're friends because I commissioned you to do this. So you're like we're buddies. I give my buddy shit. That type of stuff. So yeah.
I still think he owns the record for longest episode of this podcast. Just so you know, I think we went on for like 2 or 3 hours, honestly. And we didn't talk about anything. That's the problem. It wasn't like, I mean, let's be honest. I think we went to talk about Epic Tavern, the Fantastic Crimes. It's the Fantastic Crime Unit. Tales from the Fantastical Crime Unit that he did with Shawn French. We talked about that book, and that's the book with the infamous 8 pages for 2 pages artwork in it. And but we only talked about it for like the first half an hour, and then I think we just shoot the shit about all kinds of stuff all 2 hours. But I think to this day it's still the longest episode.
That's one of our phone calls. That's once I have to reluctantly take it. I see my phone. I'm like, oh, it's Mardo.
Yeah. Let's
take
a time off.
2 hours? Do I have 2 hours to talk about nothing? I love the guy. He's a good, became a good friend, but it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, we talk too much. I'm good at it. You're good at it. We're not good at shutting up. So, I know Kevin's the same way. Yeah. That's why I always feel good. Like after I do a podcast, I'm like, well, I know Kevin did the same thing.
Yes. Well, funny about it is so Kevin's also a busy man. So when I did my thing back in May with Kevin, I did a quick 10 minutes, and obviously he was very like the whole group over there was saying, we got 10 minutes. We're going to hang up on you basically. And I told my buddy, Paul at Galactic Comics, I go, I'm going to pull a power move, and I'm going to sign off at 9 minutes and just cut him off. And like, you say 10 minutes, I say 9 minutes. I'm like, no, I'll be polite.
Wow. Did you feel good about that?
I didn't cut him off. But no, so I see we mentioned Murder Hobo, but I have over back here in the back here, I have the variant you did for the con that never happened because of the pandemic. And I see you have that behind your head. It's over there, yeah. So
it is I just want it's weirdly, I'm not big on hanging up stuff I do.
Yeah.
Although there's a few pieces there, but they're combo pieces. But that's a solo me, and I'm not big on that, but I don't know, but I felt like it came out very nice, and I really enjoy it. I had a blast doing it. Of course, I ripped off Rosetta, so that of course. But something about it, just everything from my thought to the finished piece, I was like, it was effortless, and it came out nice, and I dig it. So I sold one of the covers. I don't know, all of them were kind of fun.
Yeah.
I've got 2 more. I did one for my wife that didn't come out for issue 4. She's a big Queen fan.
Mm-hmm.
So Lord Froth, he has his little boy toys. Mm-hmm. Let's call them zombies. So I made one of his zombies. Freddie Mercury made Lord Froth. Brian May playing guitar. And it actually is one. Again, I really love how the art came out. I don't know I'm gonna see if I can use one of the new ones because it never got to on the 4th issue. Never came out of the ones where I was doing the short stories. So that I love so Joe pushed me. I really like Roddy, the one that looks like a hobo. Like he's the murder hobo, but I'm like, no, they're all. Joe's like, no, they're all murder hobos. And I'm like, oh. So he pushed me into doing other ones that I probably wouldn't have touched. But I love that about Joe. I could have said no, but again, even at this later stage, think my mind's failing as I'm getting older, and I'm starting to say yes
Mhm.
without saying no to things, and that's I don't know. Maybe I never stopped.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, I'm excited. So that campaign for Murder Hobo #1, the new ongoing series with him and Ryan Brown,
Yes.
hit its goal already, and it hit its goal within like what 24 hours on Kickstarter, which is awesome. So I'm excited for that to come out. And it's funny as I think that's signed by Jason Lynch and by Kevin and Joe, but I don't think it's signed by you. So I go to see it at conventions. I don't even know why I haven't brought it up to you. And I have like issue 2 of the Chaotic Neutral signed by you, but not issue 1 or 3. It was like the weirdest, like, I don't know what happened. I saw you in Bangor, and I saw you at the Maine Comic and Toy Con in Portland, and I was like, I gotta get those signed by you. But and
I really dug the Maine show. I love the Portland show. I mean, the Bangor show is fine. It's a little bit of a haul for us. But it was very well organized for a first time at the Civic Center. I got to give them mad props. I think I told Will that, it was like, totally loved it. Was really well organized. Had to get used to the cold floor. Our waters were freezing at night.
Yeah.
But it was a great show. I'm looking forward to doing it again. Again, Portland's a great show to get people to go to. Because it's a great walking city, and being at the Civic Center and stuff, I thought hopefully it did well enough that we'll continue, because I've been praising it, and we had bad weather, and still we had good turnout. Even on Sunday, it was just
pouring
torrential downpours, and people still showed up. So again, that was hopefully we'll get that going. I'd love to see a good con grow in Portland.
Yes, I think it will, and I think it did well. So
yeah, I know we have PortCon. I've never been invited to it ever. So I don't know what I did to the owner of Casablanca, but evidently something. I know it's more of an anime and cosplay con.
Yes.
So again, I'm glad I haven't been invited to, because I don't think people would be that receptive to me.
What's a turtle? I don't know what a turtle is.
I know.
What's a turtle?
I know. But anyways, I'm just excited to hopefully we'll keep that going in Portland. Yeah. I'd love to see that grow into a really, I mean, it's already a good show, but I mean, just the guest list grow and have a good turnout, have people travel for it, because it is a great city, and it's a great venue for Maine.
Yes, and I've been working with Jay Cochran too. Will and Jay obviously get the celebrity guests in there and stuff like that. But I've also worked with Jay. Jay and Will are very into celebrities. Like, they're very good at celebrity stuff, and they're very good at that stuff. They are not huge weekly comic book readers, and they love comic books and they love the industry of it, but they don't know names as much. And so one of the things I've been helping with Jay is trying to send him a few names here and there of ones that the convention can afford to potentially bring in, or the downside to like October's convention in Bangor, it literally happens the same weekend as New York. And so, like, obviously the names that are going to go to New York are off the list that they can't get for Bangor. And so there's some certain things around that. But like in April, it's pretty good. So they're looking at potentially bringing in a few new comic book creators every single convention to change some things up, because obviously having all you guys there is amazing, but bringing some fresh blood in too helps with that. And it's adding people, not taking the place of people, so people know that it's not like they're gonna bring in someone and be like, Steve, you can't come.
Get rid of the main artists, bring in the fancy guys, the pinkies up guys in there.
The LA guys.
I mean, again, Will is always, I mean, the nice thing is, like, the shows around here, we love to do them. Like, if it's not somebody we know, we do it every other year or whatever. But like Granite State, we love the guys; they do a great job. We love, the main. We with Jetpack, we love to do Free Comic Book Day with Ralph. We had Eric, Jim, and I there. So as much as we can do, we love to do over and over. And again, to support something local like that is a wondrul. And again, like, all I can say is I can see people being excited to come to Portland. Because it is a foodie city. It's a great walking city. We've got the Old Port. There's a lot of stuff to do right around the con. So it makes it easy to build an extra day in if you're a guest and enjoy the city. So I think
people seem to have fun.
Bangor's nice, but it's such a spread out area. It makes it difficult for that type of things to happen. I got to get in the car to get to there. I've got to get in the car to go to there. So I think the idea of it being in downtown in Portland is just, it makes it very conducive to people enjoying being there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It was fun. It was a blast. That was the Maine Comic Toy Con. It happens every April now, so this is pretty cool.
Yes.
April in Portland, in Maine, and in Bangor is in October every year, which is cool. And I have talked to a few art creators that have talked about the idea of coming up for their vacation, like do their vacation in Maine, and then close out the week with the convention, or start the week with the convention and use the money they make at the convention. Yes.
Yeah, I had Shellback when I'd have the signings there. I had fans come up for the signings from all over the country and discover Maine and be like, whoa, there's an ocean right here, and this is beautiful, and it's quaint, and you don't, like, yeah, that's not a secret, but it's nice to see you just found it. But no, I think that's what we do, in reverse, when we go to some place that we haven't been in, and it is in an area where there's stuff to do. I'm wearing a Nashville shirt.
Yep.
We try to build in a couple extra days. We did the Star Wars show in Nashville, and that was a blast. Me and Jim were the only two, and Guy Gilchrist, but we were the only guys that were non-Star Wars related. It was the first time ever. And that was so strange. But one of the guys that puts it on, Benjamin Baldwin, he's a Star Wars nerd, but he's a big giant turtle nerd. So it was so funny to be invited to that. But when we can build in extra days, we do the same thing in reverse. So I can see that easily with Portland. Especially this stuff to do. And even if we were kind of pushed it to May as opposed to April, I think if you get a little bit better weather, a little warmer. Even though April wasn't bad, then one day, but that warmer weather makes it more desirable to walk around the old port and to go to wherever you might want to see in the state. Build in all those extra things, which is nice. We do have a great state, and it is called Vacation Land.
Yes, it is. and there's just so much to do. And I remember, like, it's funny because to finish up here, but like what was his name? Steve Agee.
My crew's over here telling me I got to get off. It's been almost some minutes, and I'm supposed to be done in that some minute time.
But Steve Agee, who was on Peacemaker and Guardians of the Galaxy and all this stuff, he was funny because he got that. He's like, oh crap, I forgot my camera. He's like, I wish I would have brought my camera. So like, not only is this helping the Maine economy with bringing a convention to Maine like this and having people stay at hotels, he went out and bought a couple $100 camera at our local store. I'm like, there you go. We're just boosting the Maine's economy.
And what the cool thing is, I went over to talk to him because I was like, hey, I loved you on Peacemaker, but I loved you on the Sarah Silverman show.
Yes.
I said, I loved you, and oh God, I can think of Brian Hussein, as the, I was like, I loved you guys as the gay couple, this gay stoner couple on that show. And he goes, oh, I know who you are. And I was like, you do? He goes, well, I know you're on it because I happen to be one of the featured artists, which was very nice. But it was so nice that I think Will told him who the guests were. And I was kind of excited that he kind of knew who I was, so we talked for a couple minutes, but, I don't usually nerd out that much, but I was like, really like him. I'm going to go say it. I don't want to let it get by. I used to do that too often, at shows. And I mean, the voice actors were all at Granite State a few years ago from the original show. Yeah. And somebody came up to my table with a print they had bought from me, and they had all signed it. And I was like, well, it's stupid if I don't go do that.
Yes.
So luckily we just happened to I was doing a panel with Kevin, Ben, Jim, I think Andy Kuhn, and I think one other person, sorry, whoever it was, I forgot. But the voice actors were coming off the panel in front of us. And Townsend Coleman's like, you're Michaelangelo. I'm like, no, you're Michaelangelo. So we kind of went back and forth. And I asked them all, I said, hey, I've got a print that I drew of the Turtles. Can you guys sign it? Like 100%, just, whatever. So what they did, but their stipulation was they wanted a print as well signed by me.
Yeah.
So happy to do that. So we swapped prints, and I have one hanging on the other side of my studio. And I started learning to
do that,
not nerd out a little bit, it's we always see you're always so busy at a show, but I'm trying to make a point to go and tell somebody like Steve Agee that, wow, no, I really like you, and I'm kind of famous over here, but I'm not you, but I'm kind of over here, guy. Which is nice, So, it's nice. And again, now, like, we all know everybody's of an age where they're a turtle nerd. Mm-hmm. So we've got some street cred, to talk to these people out there, which is nice, which is very nice. And of course, Kevin throwing the Michaelangelo thing on me doesn't hurt at all when I go to talk to somebody they kind of know. So it's nice.
It's funny because I try not to too, as I help Jay and Will with a bunch of stuff behind the scenes. I do a lot of their graphics for like posting on social and stuff like that. But I help Jay do the cans sometimes. Like I helped him with the Terrifier beer can that we did
Right. Yes.
with David.
Yes, yes.
And so I was like, I got it stupid not to go get a label signed. Like I helped create this, get the guy who this same thing with I did We All Float with the losers from the TV show or the TV special for it back in the day. I did a We All Float illustration can up here for that. And then I also did the one for Snoochie Brewskis for the Clerks people. So it was all those things. It's like I'm stupid. This is probably the only opportunity for me to ever have these people in one spot. Why not? I'm not gonna go over there and fanboy. No. But I was like, I did this. Can you please just? And all of them were like, oh absolutely, absolutely.
100%. You forget that though. Yeah, and like me. Well, you mentioned, was it Terrifier?
Yeah.
I had no idea what that was, but he was right next to us, Dave. Right?
Yeah. David. Yeah.
Sweet, super nice guy. So he's a big turtle nerd. So he was busy. We're busy. And then he's like, oh my God, I'm such a big turtle fan. Can I buy a print from you? And I'm like, how about sending me a photo for my daughter?
Yes.
She's both her and my wife I'm a horror fan, but they go to see horror movies and stuff all the time. So he did that. And to me, that's always a nice thing too. We took some pictures together. Yeah. Look forward to seeing him again at another show.
Yeah.
Those things, that's the type of stuff that I really enjoy, and again, the 4 green things that lived in a sewer with a rat has, made that a possibility for me, which is very cool. Can never argue, can never complain. That again, you meet wonderful people. Hands down, we have the best fandom too. Doing all the cons we've done. I mean, this many fingers out of the tens of thousands of people that they've crossed our table.
Yeah,
that many people I don't want back.
Yes,
and they weren't horrible. They were just not good fans. Mm-hmm. They were kind of like, just don't need you around. Everybody else is wonderful. You're okay, but you're a little bit too much, type of a person.
Yeah.
Like they answered questions for other people would ask me. They stood at the table like that, like they knew the answer, but these people want to ask a question to me, not to you. And before I could open my mouth, these couple of people would just answer questions. But anyways. That's the wonderful thing we do have.
We'll finish up here for a second, but I want to say, we mentioned the community thing. The community thing is huge. And we mentioned jokingly 100%. At the very beginning, the Bishart Kids Club is a cult. We jokingly said that, but it is. Kevin Eastman's got his fan club and so on and so forth as well. Yes. And a lot of these things, like the Bishart Kids Club, is fans of Ben Bishop, but really they're all turtle fans, and they're diehard turtle fans. You're talking like 100%, people 100%. Who spend way too much money on turtle stuff. I'll tell you right now, money that I don't have.
Hey, look behind me. You see all the NECA crap behind me? That's not coming free to me. NECA.
But the community is amazing, and I think that's one of the things that stands out above the rest. I do think that people have their opinions, but one thing I will say, if you ever were to compare Star Wars versus the Turtles fan communities, the Star Wars basically hate everything, and the Turtle fans love everything except for small amounts of things, and that's the difference. I think it's one of those things that like we don't have a lot of preconceived notion as Turtle fans going into something to love it, whereas the Star Wars have like movies in their heads when they see the movie that wasn't created for them. They're like, this thing stinks.
Yeah. I mean, there's been hits and misses for fans. And believe me, I myself have disparaged some things which I don't like to do. But I think 100%. No, the fandom, like you say, I always joke like with Ben, I'm like, I'm going to start Lavigne's Lemmings, and they'll just follow me. They'll follow me off a cliff. And it's the same people, so watch out, Ben. No, I wouldn't, and jokingly, Joe always goes, you should do that. And I'm like, I couldn't be Ben. I mean, I've got a couple things. I'm going to be doing a skateboard deck, I'm doing the sneakers with Tom. I like doing those. I just couldn't be what Ben is, the everything to everybody guy. I think he's slowing down though. And I know why. He's got a little tiny Bishop.
Yes, he does.
He's good. And when I had little tiny Lavignes, it was very hard for me to be everything for everybody.
And he's very good at being a parent in the sense that knowing to blame the kid is great. I have a 2-year-old, and I can use that to escape any event, party, meeting, anything, I'd be like, oh, my kid needs me, and you can't say crap to that. So Ben's been very good about that, where he's like, I'm not coming to Maine Comic and Toy Con because I have to be home with my son.
I gave him crap about that one. I'm like, look, I get it when you have to get on a plane, but if you were driving like a 15-minute ride and you could have left after an hour, you could have made an appearance.
Yes, but
so I gave him a hard time about that one. But 100%, no. I mean that's the neat thing. Like Ben's having kids, and that'll slow down. That'll slow down what he can do a little bit. But I know Ben's been that way. I mean, Kevin says, Ben Bishop is the new Kevin Eastman, and I'm like, well, he markets better than you though. So I think he's above you, Kevin, as far as the marketing part of it goes. Although Kevin does a great job with Eastman Studios, he does a lot of great products and does everything. He has a great team. I have a team. It's my wife, Denise. That's my team. That is my team. And she has her own business. So without her, I hesitate to think how pathetic I would be. But she's great about keeping me out there. She books all the cons, she does all that stuff. I need a team like Ben and Kevin so I can get the products that are in my head out, because I've got a bunch of stuff, but I always put them aside. Like I get tired of looking at them like, no, it's not worth making. I get disgusted with stuff, and I'm like, it's been here too long, nobody's gonna want it. I should have showed it to people before I got sick of it.
Yes,
stuff,
exactly.
So.
Now you don't. That's awesome. But I mean, they do. So the community is great. Everything's awesome. I think the Turtles are going. They're going. I think it's one of those things that like we are in a golden age. If anybody isn't a Turtles fan and wants to, I think you're in a great time right now.
I'm crossing everything. Let's keep it going for a long time, because I mean, I think I really feel like if Nickelodeon realizes and takes the reins, I think we could keep this going for a lot. I mean, they have to, but I just like what they did with like Seth Rogen, like getting, having that writing team to write a teenage thing. It's like, my instant thing was, Superbad meets the Turtles. And I know we're not going to get all the bad stuff that was in Superbad, but the interactions in the writing are going to be that fun and fast in the way we want to see it. And the little stuff that I've seen from it has, definitely echoed what my brain thought would happen, so that's very cool.
I'm so excited to see where it goes and all that stuff in the next realm, and the new creators that are coming out with new stuff. Matias is killing it there too with that kind of stuff. And
us old bastards want to be part 2. We'll join in the fun as long as you guys want us. All of us old bastards are really happy. OGs, not old bastards, right?
Yes, OGs.
Right. OGs, right. Okay. OGs, I mean, all of us are, if we get anything we get pulled into, we're always happy to do. And I'm happy that, like I say, the younger guys, it is exciting for them to bring us in. We have less skill than they do, but what skill we have, we can apply to their much elevated skills and make it okay. So we'll see.
It's great. I thank you so much for taking time. I thank all your family and everybody for taking time out of your day to chat with me and talk to the Turtles here on the podcast. And we'll see you around, because we are in the same area, so we'll run into. Maine's such a small place, right? We'll just bump into each other at a store.
This weekend we'll be at Jetpack Comics.
Oh, that's cool.
Jim Lawson, Eric Talbot, and I. It was an Eric signing. Eric's got a cover coming out, turtle cover coming out. So he'll have something cool. I don't know what me and Jim will be writing on. I guess I'll have the Usagi turtle cover I'll be signing. And Jim, I think, has something coming out as well at Jetpack. But anyways, that's this the 22nd, which is this weekend. If anybody is in the vicinity, if this is going to be up before then, can join us.
It's not going to be up before then.
Okay,
but
so in other words, cut to edit. That was an edit.
No, it's fine. Yeah. The funny thing is, when you do these signings and things like that too, quickly before you go, do you sign some stuff for the store too? Like, is there stuff that they take and they have? So like, it's possible someone could go in the store and find some things that are afterwards. So
Jetpack Comics, Tristan at Coast City has stuff, that I've signed. Yeah, Ralph definitely does. I've done quite a few covers with him and Jim as well. So yeah, we usually we'll try to sign a bunch just so he has some that he can give to fans if they couldn't make it. And of course, we sign as many as we can for people, because I mean, the big thing for us is it's not like so like, I only sign a limited number of things. So it's, no, my thing is, no, you guys want me to write on, I'm going to write on it. That's it's not, I feel bad if you think my signature brings a great value and brings some
Yes.
value, but I do write on a lot of stuff, not as much as Kevin. Not as much as Kevin.
Well, it's just funny because actually, this is the last thing I'll say. Go on image search for Google and type in Kevin Eastman TMNT comic. There's more images on there with Kevin's comic books with a signature on it than there are stock images of the original comic book by itself. I'll tell you that right now.
Everybody shares that. That's the stuff that people share. So that's what gets picked. AI kicks on that and brings it in. So I never had Googled myself until fairly recently, and I went, huh, interesting, and then left. Didn't scroll too far down. But it does blow your mind because I forget. Fans take pictures and then they post them, and then inevitably they get plucked because my name's linked to that stuff. So it's always so funny to me. I'm always like, okay, I'm on the internet.
Well, your Wikipedia page is a picture from you from San Diego Comic-Con in 2009. So
oh wow, okay.
And it's a picture of you with someone else, and you're the other person's cut out. So it's like you with someone, and Raphael looks like behind you, but it's just kind of funny. I was like laughing. I'm like, it's you have your goatee there, and got a little lanyard on and a nice little polo shirt.
That is too funny. Oh my God, that's too strange. I guess I've never visited my Wikipedia page.
It's very, very, very detailed, and I'm sure it's 100% correct.
I would imagine that it probably is. I know Denise, my wife, has gone in, and I know fans do go and put things on it. That's very nice of them. I remember I never even knew about what Wikipedia was. My nephew, when that first came out, he's like, Uncle Steve. I'm like, what, Griffin? He goes, do you know that you're on Wikipedia? I'm like, is that like a witch thing? Like
Wiccan, yeah.
Yeah, and he goes, no, and I was like, because it was new at that time, he was pretty young, and he was probably, like preteen or teen, and told me, Uncle Steve, and like, no, Griffin, I didn't know that, and so I did go and look at it then, but I don't think there was a picture of then.
There's a picture there now.
It was a lot.
Someone put it in there.
Well,
and guess what? Yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, just one thing to finish off. Ben Bishop, if you ever listen to this, Ben does not have a Wikipedia page. Steve Lavigne does. So there.
Whoa. What?
Ben does not have a Wikipedia, which is funny because you have to have like credited things in newspaper. He's had enough credited things to him that someone just needs to create it. And I'm surprised there's not a bitch kid out there who hasn't created one yet for him.
I'm literally shocked.
But
it should be a multimedia experience. The bitch kid should have taken control of that and done their due diligence. Maybe they're off on an assassination and they can't
exactly.
have time for this.
They're getting sacrifices for Ben. They're getting
somebody said something disparaging about young Ben. Oh no, Father Ben Bishop. And they had to go kill him.
They're done.
So yes.
But
it's something
Steve,
like Mission Impossible. That's what I picture. Should you choose to accept this mission? That's what you
get in the box. You didn't know that when you get in the bish box, you open it up.
And the bish box starts smoking and catches on fire. Then whatever's near it catches on fire.
Then there's a lawsuit and all that stuff, but whatever.
Yeah, well, the bish boxes are big, so.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, Ben, I hope you enjoyed that little talk about you.
Yes, exactly. I appreciate you taking time out of the day to talk about turtles and everything over here on the podcast. We'll have you back at some time in the future. But again, thank you so much and keep up the great work. Turtle fans around the world, thank you for all the input you've had over the years.
Always happy to do it for a fellow Mainer.
Yes, exactly.
Sure enough, goddamn it, that was wicked shot, wicked kinger. Happy to do it.
Okay, this is divulged into something we don't want to, we're gone too far now.
Yes, our Maine accent stuck kicking in.
Yes, exactly.
Like a Stephen King movie.
That's awesome. Thank you, Steve.
All right, we'll see you, Justin.